And we check in this morning with one of our senators here for the state of Pennsylvania. He is Senator Pat Toomey, who joins us as he does each month. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. It's great to have you on. You've got a vote coming up today. I think it's today that you're going to be voting on the president's declaration of emergency at the border. I just saw this morning where the number of border arrests are up 96.8% this year over where they were a year ago. President probably was not very artful in the way he went about saying that. He said, well, I don't have to do that now, but I am declaring a national emergency. How are you going to vote on that today? And talk a little bit about that. I've got mixed feelings on the president circumventing Congress saying no.
Yeah.
I'm not much on a government of executive directives,
Right.
but your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's we will not be voting today. That's next week.
Okay.
Sometime we'll have the actual vote, but we are clearly discussing it. So here's my view on this, Gary. Is first of all, the president has been asking for $5.7 billion. That's the number that we were kind of stuck during the government shutdown, and Pelosi insisted it had to be zero. I always believed, and I still believe, that that's a reasonable request. $5.7 billion is consistent with what the Border Patrol has asked for. It allows us to fund their top 10 priorities. It allows us to build, I think it's about 250 miles of additional wall, which is really quite a substantial stretch.
It is.
I am for that. Here's the thing. The president, with the appropriation that he got in the spending bill, which was only $1.4 billion, I thought that was too low, but that's what was signed into law. But with the legal authority he has to reposition other funds, he can get to 5.7. He can actually get above $5.7 billion without having to use the funds through the emergency declaration. So my preference is for the president to use the money that's been appropriated, the funds he has access to, the emergency declaration. That starts to get into a more problematic area that you've alluded to, where the president would be spending money that is not authorized by Congress. The other categories are fully authorized. So I think the $5.7 billion is necessary. It's appropriate. We need to continue with border wall construction. We can do that. But I think the president should do it in a fashion that is consistent with the Constitution. So I'm working with my colleagues to try to fashion a legislation next week that will address that. I make sure we get the funding that we need so we can build the wall that we need, but let's not do it in a way that violates the constitutional responsibility that is with Congress for spending money.
In a time of hate all things Trump, we've seen that attitude pretty prevalent. How hard is it right now to deal with colleagues who are maybe saddled with that attitude? I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's probably as prevalent in the Senate as it is in the House, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it can be frustrating because sometimes, a very sensible solution or a compromise, or in this case, acknowledging that there are categories of money that Congress has given the president authority to spend. All of those things are completely reasonable, but you have some people, all they want to do is poke Donald Trump in the eye. That's the only thing that they're interested in. And I think that's ridiculous. He's the president of the United States. He was elected president of the United States. And, our job is to work with him, where I can and where we're on the same page. I'm a big ally. If I disagree with him, I'm going to say I disagree. But it is frustrating when you have folks who seem to think that they simply must resist, at all costs.
I get it from the media, and I get it a lot from people who live out here on Main Street. But I thought I'd ask you, what is it that senators and representatives hate so much about this president? Have you been able to put your finger on it at all?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure that some people have said, why do you Republicans hate Hillary Clinton so much? And it's hate's an awfully strong word. I hope it's not really that. It certainly is among some people. I hope it's not here on Capitol Hill.
Well, let's say, why do they find him so detestable, I guess, is what...
I don't know. There's a lot of different theories. Certainly he's an unconventional guy. There's no question about that. He certainly breaks with the ordinary norms that we expect from a president in many ways. He certainly willing to mix it up and throw punches at people when he feels like they're throwing punches at him. I don't know. I don't share this view. I actually find him very personable when I've been over at the White House on many occasions. He's a gracious host. He's extremely personable. He listens to what I have to say, even when he doesn't agree with me. So I don't get it, Gary.
Yeah, is he knowledgeable on the subjects? Does he converse with you? Can he get inside some of the things?
Honestly, the truth is it varies. In some areas, he has taken the time to become knowledgeable about some things. In other cases, not as much, and he has not spent a lifetime steeped in these issues.
Sure.
So it varies.
I wanted to ask you a little bit, too, about some things you're working on right now. I know opioids are a big topic out there. And
right.
Tell us a little bit about some things you're working on right now at the moment.
Yeah, so the opioid crisis, honestly, I think there's now increasing evidence that things have gotten a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're saying is we're still losing way too many people to opioid overdoses, but the number is less than it was, say, in 2017. So maybe we're rounding a corner here. I sure hope so. One of the things, though, that has emerged in just the last few years is fentanyl, right? This is a form of opioid. It's similar to heroin, but it's up to 50 times more powerful than heroin. And a tiny amount equivalent to a few grains of salt is enough to kill an ordinary adult man. That's how powerful this stuff is. Well, it doesn't originate in the United States. It tends to originate in China. It gets shipped through various places and gets to the U.S., and then it kills people. What I'm trying to do is really raise the stakes for China to crack down on not just fentanyl per se. There's a specific, chemical formula for fentanyl, but all of the category, this entire class, this category of drugs that are very, very similar. So what can happen is if you ban one very particular molecule, a chemist can just tweak it very modestly. It has all the same effects. It works the same way. It's just as lethal, but now it's a different molecule because they've changed it. Well, what you have to do is you have to ban the entire category, everything that's equivalent.
Right.
And that's one of the things that Chinese need to do. Some other countries need to do that as well. And so my legislation would preclude any kind of U.S. financial assistance for countries that are not doing enough, like what I just described as ban, not doing enough to prevent the production and sale of fentanyl into the U.S. So I hope we can get this passed. It's not going to solve the problem overnight by any means, but it's an incremental improvement, I think.
Another piece in the effort to bring this terrible thing under control. Senator, always good to have you on. Thank you so much for taking time this morning, and continue good luck. We'll talk to you again next month.
Thanks for having me, Gary.